It's a football Friday. I'm joined today by Bob Vila. Even though it's cold outside, the pod could not be any hotter. How you doing today, Deuce?
I'm good. All's good down here. I'm thinking about buying a Saxton podcast sleigh and just throwing out picks from that. I mean, that's where we're getting to at this point.
74-59 on the year, almost 56%, and couldn't be any hotter the last 3 weeks.
No. Down the stretch, here we come.
We've promised for the last month and a half that this is the time we get hot, and again we delivered.
Like clockwork every year.
Well, let's hop right into the NFL. 3 weeks left. Winning time for a lot of teams. I think we know what most teams are at this point.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts on what transpired last night in a game that did not mean much between Denver and Indianapolis.
No, it didn't mean anything, but at this point in the year, you don't have anything to do. I was watching the game. I know you and Dan were watching the game. There's actually some interesting storylines. I think both teams have questions at quarterback, and I actually think the Broncos specifically are going to be maybe the market leaders in the offseason of getting a new quarterback. I actually think they're going to go after Cousins pretty hard.
I know we've thrown scenarios, what we would do, what the Colts should do. Ultimately, what does happen with Andrew Luck?
Yeah, we've kicked it around. Asked the native fan, Dan, about it, his thoughts. I'm pretty surprised, actually. He thinks they should deal Luck now and get what they can. I think they could still get 2, maybe 3 first-rounders for him, specifically to those teams that are ready to win now. Obviously, the injury clouds things, but I think I'd still take a shot on it. It's a shoulder, not a neck or a back. I think, though, ultimately, that would be pretty alienating to that fan base. I can't see them doing it. I think they try to get him healthy and they ride with Luck and try to actually build a team around him instead of what they've been doing, which is collecting a bunch of guys without talent. I find it hard to believe that they're going to deal what many think is the best prospect since Elway.
In 1996, if I told you that the Colts would have Peyton Manning and followed by Andrew Luck and set the Super Bowl total at 2.5, what would you have said?
You think I would have taken the over, right? I mean, I think everybody would.
It's unfathomable that they have one Super Bowl.
I was thinking about it last night when we were talking roster. They've had some decent players on offense, specifically Marvin, Reggie, Edgerrin James. I cannot name one good defensive player. Now, Bob Sanders would have an asterisk because he had a couple great years, but, rarely played a full season. Besides Dwight Freeney, I can't name a good defensive player they've had.
Mathis, probably borderline, not great. And Vontae Davis he's not great.
Vontae Davis is great?
Nah, not at all.
He's an okay corner. I mean, he had some good games, but that's, I think that is kind of been I can't remember who the GM was, Polian, and Grigson era is they've hit on a couple really good skill guys, and they've swung and missed literally on every other position for 15 straight years, which is hard to do.
To credit Polian, from what I've heard him say, he believes you should be great on one side of the ball. And it probably works if he would have been in the NFC or didn't have to run into Brady every year. Because there's no question that they were great on offense.
That's true. That's a really good point. And my guess is if you ask Philadelphia's fan base, next 12 years, or however long Peyton was in Indy, I can't remember, 15 years, would you take a Super Bowl with Wentz? Just one, would you take it?
Absolutely, you have to. This fan base has been tortured.
Instead of rolling the dice for 3, would you take a sure one?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to.
Yeah, so if you look at it from that perspective, it's been successful for Polian. Grigson, I don't think there's an argument. He's been an absolute disaster.
Why don't you ask Buffalo fans that question if they would take one?
That's I would. What about Washington fans at this point?
At least you have a couple.
That's true. Yeah, I guess with the Bills though, man, they had so much talent. That one's that's just circumstance, I guess.
The big storyline that seems to be emerging, and it's been with us throughout the whole year, is the injuries around the league, and obviously huge name guys going down.
Yeah.
Without making this flag, is there anything else the NFL can do to prevent?
With the explosion of Bitcoin, I think we should start talking about robots playing football. No, I don't. I mean, you can only put so much padding on guys. You can only do so much player training to hit people heads up. Some of it boils down to instinct. It's instinctual to tackle someone a certain way. And, when you have guys that are 6'4", 250 and are running 4.3s, it's inevitable, unfortunately.
I think Thursday night has to go. I know the statistics show that there's more injuries on Sunday than Thursday, but I think the Thursday effect down the line, I don't think it may be present on that Thursday night, but the weeks preceding or following it, I think the guys just are worn down.
I agree. I think the London game needs to go.
Yes.
I think the Thursday needs to go. I think it's a cumulative effect, like you just said. It might not be that week, but it's a cumulative effect. And to the greater point, I'm sick of seeing the old heads talk about how their players today are not trying to protect one another. Are they kidding? Do you remember watching games in the 70s? Guys were clotheslining each other. What are you talking about? It's been like this forever.
The Juju Smith-Schuster hit on Burfict 2 weeks ago, that was every play 20 years ago.
Every single play was like that. I was shocked at the outrage by that. It was a regular block for the last 50 years.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think social media / times have changed from an aggression standpoint. That's what's different.
Social media is the downfall.
Juju Smith-Schuster is a small guy, or quote-unquote small guy at 6'2", 215. Back then, wide receivers were 5'8", 175.
I think you're right. The athletes are... You can't even compare the athletes now to 20, 25 years ago. But I also think that Vontaze Burfict is not doing some of the stuff he's doing 20, 25 years ago.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I agree.
So, it is interesting. I do think that Goodell's going to have to start making some changes to the schedule, whether it's getting rid of Thursday or keeping Thursday in London but adding weeks onto the year and giving another bye. I don't know what he has to do, but he has to do something.
It's an interesting problem for him specifically because the owners are making so much money, but he has to worry about the product that's being seen. It cannot be good visibility to have, A, all of your stars hurt like this year, B, seeing a stretcher come on the field every other week.
I don't understand why him and the NFL is so against carrying the season into February. They would run into absolutely nothing, sports-wise. And even if they did, the NFL is the NFL compared to every other sport.
What is the reasoning for that? Do you know?
I have not heard a specific reason, but I don't know. I would be all for the Super Bowl being the last week of February.
Yeah, I don't really see I guess maybe weather, but what's the difference between January and February?
Play it every year, Miami, Houston, LA, in a dome. What does it matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually had not heard that they care about that, so yeah, why not spread it out?
I think it would improve the product in the game as a whole and obviously keep players more healthy.
I'm not opposed to adding a second bye week for teams.
Yeah, I think the next step either is add a bye week or expand the rosters. But by expanding the rosters, you're bringing fringe talent onto the field.
Yeah, that's the argument I keep hearing against the roster expansion, is that you water down the product.
It is interesting. It's interesting what he's going to do, but he certainly has to do something.
Yeah, it definitely has to do something. It's still king, but the optics are bad and the ratings aren't as good as they once were, and I think it's because of the product, not because of the protests.
I completely agree. We are tied on the year in Guess the Lines with 3 weeks left, so essentially a best out of 3. I said Denver -2 last night.
I had them as a field goal favorite.
It opened... trying to find it here. It opened 1.5, so I get that one to take a 1-0 lead on the week. So we'll move ahead to Sunday. Actually, Saturday. 2 Saturday games this week, and two decent ones. Chicago goes to Detroit. I said Detroit -7.
I had them 5.5.
I get this. It opens 6.5. It's down to 5.
Little Fletch move, I'm assuming. I have not been great on Chicago this year. They're kind of that Jekyll and Hyde team. Their defense is pretty decent. They have a really good run game, which is why I kind of lean on them here. Stafford's hand banged up. He got it out, but didn't look great last week. And Detroit's run defense is pathetic, so I think you could see a huge game from Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen here.
Detroit, major offensive line issues with injuries. Maybe missing 3 starters on the O-line. As you said, Chicago should be able to run the ball. Interesting against the spread stat on Stafford. He's 11-17 against the spread at home when he's above 500.
Oh, digging deep. I like that one.
So I lean Chicago. At the 5, I may opt for a teaser with Chicago, but I certainly lean Chicago.
Yeah, I lean there as well. It is definitely no man's land. Young rookie quarterback, you could get bit in the ass late in the game here against the spread. So I think I like them straight up if you want to unbuckle the belt, but I could go in a teaser as well.
We'll put an X there and come back to that one. The other Saturday game may decide the AFC West. Certainly going to put somebody in the driver's seat. The Wagon Chargers go to Kansas City. I said Kansas City -3.
I said Kansas City -1.5.
You got it. It opened 1. It is now Chargers -1.
Well, a little steamer there. I am so torn here. I wish I could take my heart and our Wagon out of it here. I want them to win this division so bad at this point. I don't think this is a great spot for them. They're coming in really hot. They're playing great. But we finally saw Andy get Kareem Hunt back going last week, which worries me in this spot. Ingram and Bosa are great. They're both good against the run as standalone players, but as a unit, they are not good against the run. I think you could see another really good game from Hunt. To me, the key to this game is Alex Smith. Which one shows up? The early season one or the one that's been the last 5 or 6 weeks has been pretty bad. I want to lean Kansas City here, actually.
Everything you said is most of the notes I have. Hunt had 28 touches last week. Andy finally goes back to him. Completely agree on Bosa and Ingram. Great standalone players, great pass rushers, but that unit as a whole is susceptible to the run. 2 things that go against each other. Rivers 21-7 against the spread in his career on a short week. But I've looked the past couple weeks as I started to get higher and higher on the Wagon. Their wins have been against the Giants, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Bills when they started Peterman, Dallas without Zeke, and a injury-ravaged Redskin team.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Those are not, you could probably pick out one of those wins as being quote-unquote good.
They're expecting steady wind at Arrowhead on Saturday night as well.
I think they are going to catch a break with the weather. It won't be that cold. It'll be seasonal, but not ice cold, so LA gets a little bit of break with that. I think Tyreek Hill can make a play at a punt return or kick return or something like that wins this game.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think special teams and turnovers are going to be the difference. Alex Smith, usually pretty good at protecting the ball. Rivers could get loose, and obviously major advantage to Kansas City in special teams. I would lean Chiefs.
Man, I think I'm with you. I hate to do it, but I think we need to hedge here with Kansas City.
I don't think I can make it an official.
Interesting. Interesting. I was ready to go there.
I'll exit.
All right, we'll come back. If that gets up in that 2.5 range, I think we got to do it.
We start in Carolina on Sunday. Aaron Rodgers back. Carolina off the big win against Minnesota. Green Bay keeps playoff hopes alive last week with one of the worst NFL collapses by the Browns I've ever seen. I said this was assuming Rodgers wasn't playing, so I said Panthers -6.
I assumed he was playing. I said 3.5.
You got it. Opened 1, up to 3. Carolina.
This might be my favorite or second favorite play of the week. I like Carolina here. I would assume public is going to be on Aaron Rodgers, media darling, commercial every 5 seconds. The guy hasn't played in forever. 2 months, basically. 2.5 months. He just had a plate with 20 screws taken out of his shoulder. That's a ton to ask of him. I think Carolina can get pressure on him. The O-line for Green Bay is really banged up. They've never been able to run the ball very well, so it's all going to be on him. And more injuries, secondary. Their secondary is decimated. I think Carolina rolls in this game.
2 questions for you. Any worry about a Carolina letdown after the win against Minnesota?
This would be my bloodbath special of the year if they had lost to Minnesota last week. So, yes, that does knock it down a little bit. But, that win last week, it really didn't really do anything for them long term. It didn't lock up a spot. It put them in a good position, but it's still almost a must-win for them.
Second question, Green Bay's final 3 games, obviously at Carolina, home to Minnesota, at Detroit to end the year, at 7-6 on the outside looking in, so they need some outside help. Would you play Aaron Rodgers?
Yes, because even if he shatters it again, it's a 12-week injury.
Okay.
If it was a knee or back, neck, I probably would not. But it sucks for him if it happens again, but it doesn't do anything long-term to hurt his future.
What do you expect from Mike McCarthy? Putting the game in Aaron Rodgers' hands, or is he going to stick with the balanced attack that he's had?
If Carolina goes down and scores early, I think you see him abandon the run per usual. I don't love this matchup for Green Bay because Carolina can stop the run without adding a safety to that box. They have the front 7 to do it. Kuechly can stop the run almost by himself. So that's a problem for Green Bay if they're going to try to establish anything on the ground.
I think you hit everything that I would have said. My only worry is just the spot with Carolina after the Minnesota game. But it would be Carolina or nothing for me.
I know that there's been reports how good he looks. He looks amazing, best he's ever looked in practice. I just am shocked that there's no fear of rust from anybody for Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So I like Carolina.
Baltimore goes to Cleveland. I said Ravens -8.
I said Ravens -7.5.
You get it to take a 3-2 lead on the week. Open 7s, remain 7.
If this moves to 7.5, you can go ahead and punch me in the face now. I would think I like Cleveland.
I was hoping that you said we're not doing anything, or you love the Ravens.
You know that's not in my DNA.
Every stat I have is in favor of the dog pound. Home dog 7 or more after November since 2005, 60% cover rate. Baltimore coming off the Steelers. The last 3 years Baltimore's been in Cleveland, they've won. Total points, 2-point win, 5-point win, 6-point win. Jimmy Smith out. Josh Gordon's been pretty good when Kaiser knows what jersey he's throwing to. If you take Baltimore, you're an idiot. But if you take Cleveland, you're an idiot.
Yeah, we're so dumb. I knew this was going to happen. I shouldn't have even started, but I have a feeling this was going to happen. Crushing loss for Baltimore last week. Absolutely crushing.
Not only was it a loss outright, but having Cleveland, I'm talking about the Cleveland game, Cleveland +3, you would expect a push in overtime. But
yeah.
Kaiser throws the worst NFL pass I've ever seen, and then they gash him for a touchdown.
Your text when it happened was perfect. It looked like he was playing that old game of 500, where you chuck it as high in the air as possible.
But to your point, Baltimore, absolutely devastating loss. Up 11 with 7 minutes to go and the ball, and you lose.
Oh, God.
And then I think we text each other simultaneously as Ben led them down the field. Antonio Brown in single coverage.
It boggles whoever made that decision should have been fired on the field. It boggles my mind how it seems like it's that division all the time with Brown and A.J. Green in key spots. They just let them be singled. And if you're the corner, why are you letting him get outside on you? Push him inside, if anything.
The clock management and the coaching in the last 3 minutes of games or halves has been unbelievably terrible.
It's comical how bad it is.
And you could see it coming too.
Yes. Yeah.
Ben had to be salivating looking at single coverage. I think he took one step and just tossed it up.
It wasn't a fancy play. It was Antonio get off the line and go route, which is just ridiculous to me that that's even a possibility.
So it's got to be Cleveland or nothing for me.
Yeah, me too. I don't even want them in a teaser. If we're going to do it, I want them straight up.
Another star. We'll come back to that one. Houston goes to Jacksonville. Really good win for Jacksonville last weekend against Seattle.
Yes.
I said Jacksonville 10.5.
I got a little wild here. I said Jacksonville -14.
Jacksonville opened 10.5. It's up to 11.5. 3-3 on the week.
This is probably a Jags teaser spot, but young team, huge win. I think I'm going to stay away, just in case they let down.
I think it's a stay away as well. I think it's too many points to trust Blake Bortles with. I think he has been pretty good of late, though.
Yeah, he's been much better than he was early in the year.
Interesting matchup with Hopkins against that Jacksonville secondary. TJ Yates getting the start. I would not recommend taking Houston, but it would be Houston or nothing.
Yeah, I don't like either side here, actually.
Jets go to the Saints. I said Saints -13.
I said something big. I said Saints -14.
You get it to regain the lead. It opened 15.5. It has remained 15.5.
Bryce Petty getting the start here, which a shocking stat. The most valuable quarterback line move this week was Josh McCown's injury, broken hand out for the year. That was deemed a 7-point disadvantage for the Jets, where Aaron Rodgers was only a 6-point advantage for the Packers, which is pretty interesting.
I believe I heard Wentz was 4 points.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, Saints are nothing here if you want to put it in a teaser, but Bryce Petty on the road versus a pretty good secondary, and Cameron Jordan's coming at him. I don't want any part of that.
Kamara back for the Saints, or should be anyway.
Yes.
A lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. I'd advise stay away.
Yeah.
Philly goes to the Giants. I said Eagles -5.
I said 4.5.
Philly opened 7.5. It's remained 7.5.
That's pretty high. I was surprised when I saw that.
So the week's even at 4-4. Yeah, I thought it would be in the Vegas zone. I am surprised it's that high. Third road game in a row for the Eagles. Although this one is probably not as bad as some other teams who've played 3 in a row. They've got to sleep in their beds all week. Short trip to New York. New York injuries all over on the defensive side of the ball. So if you want a situation for Foles to walk into, this is probably as good as you could ask for. Ertz should be back. If you look at Foles' stats, they're not terrible if you take away the year that he had with Jeff Fisher, which everybody seems to be an abomination.
His however many starts Wentz has now, I forget the number. If you take Foles' starts in the same number of games, he has a better completion percentage, more yards, more touchdowns, and more wins than Carson Wentz does, which is pretty interesting. If we can get this to 7, I think I like the Eagles in this spot, but 7.5 is just a no man's land number for me.
Possible tease situation?
Yeah, definitely. If it doesn't come down at all, then yes.
Philly, over in the playoffs, how much do you downgrade their chances to win the NFC?
I just gave you all those stats saying how good Foles is, but I actually think it's a pretty significant downgrade just because I think Wentz gives you that ability. If the rest of the team is kind of slow, I think he gives you that ability to win the game by himself. I think he gives you that ability if you get down early to come back from 14 down. I don't think Foles gives you that ability.
Assuming 1 seed, can they win the NFC?
Yeah, I think they can. There's a couple teams that would worry me, but the matchups that they would get as the 1 seed at home aren't really scary.
Assuming they're the 1 seed, who would you say is the favorite in the NFC?
Oh, that's a good question. We saw a little bit of bad of Case Keenum last week, so I think we kind of know that's their Achilles heel. I still really like that Vikings team, though. I think their roster's really good. I think the Saints might actually be the favorite if they get in that 3 spot.
Yeah, I've looked at it in a lot of different ways. I think that first playoff game in Philly is going to be tougher than if they would win and go to the NFC title. Because I think Minnesota is going to get there, and I am not afraid of Case Keenum coming to Philly in January.
Yeah. That would be one of those games where which defense plays better on that day.
Yes.
I think the Saints are probably the scariest team just because they can throw it and they have a great running game. That would be what would scare me. Their defense isn't as good as other teams, Minnesota and Philly specifically, but they do have some really good corners and they have a guy that can rush the passer. So that's why I think I'd probably be most scared of them.
I was not that impressed with Jared Goff last week. I was extremely impressed with Sean McVay. If he doesn't win Coach of the Year, it's a joke.
Yeah.
I actually
it really pops off your screen too when you watch him play.
That's what I was getting at. I have not seen many Rams games, and he was unbelievable to me.
Yeah, the size and speed combo that he brings, his ability to catch the ball in the backfield and run between the tackles. I know he had a bad year last year, but I attribute that to how crappy the team was mostly. He's really, really good.
I think
there's some really, really good young running backs in the league.
Without Wentz, I think the Rams are the most complete team in the NFC. But I don't know if Goff could win on the road in the playoffs.
Nah, yeah, I like Gurley and I like Donald. I worry about their secondary, and I worry about Goff. Woods and Watkins are okay. I don't love them, though. I just prefer Minnesota's roster over the Rams come the playoffs.
NFC should be interesting, for sure.
Yeah.
Arizona comes to D.C. this weekend. I said Hearts 6.5.
Wow. I said Washington -3.
You got it. Take the lead 5-4 on the week. Opened 3.5. It's up to 4.
I would stay away from this one. Cardinals pulled an upset last week, but I'm not going to trust Gabbert bouncing back from that. And Washington totally quit last week. They went out west and didn't look like they wanted to play football at all. So I hate picking 4 against teams that have mailed it in.
I'm seeing most of their linemen are going to play.
It looks like it, yes. The ones that are
Williams and Moses, yeah. I hate to do this to you, but I love Washington. 2 big stats. Teams on the road after winning previous game as a home dog, which would be the Cardinals, 42% against the spread the following week. Gabbert 0-7-1 against the spread after a straight-up win. And as you touched upon it, the Hearts coming after an awful performance last week.
Yeah. I don't want to be talked into this one.
I'll leave it at that then.
Make a pick. The home team is the pick. But I don't. Just out of principle, out of boycotting, I don't want to do it.
Is Jay Gruden going to be back next year?
I think so, yes. I think next year will be his prove-it year.
Moving.
I think. It totally depends on what the quarterback situation is.
Cincinnati goes to Minnesota. I said Vikings -12.
I said Vikings -9.
You get it. It opened 10. It's up to 10.5. 6-4 lead on the week.
This is a good spot for the Vikings to bounce back. They kind of need to win this game for positioning, like we talked about, seeding-wise for the playoffs. The Bengals injury report is 10 pages long. Vontez, questionable. Drake Kirkpatrick, questionable. Darquez Dennard, questionable. Pac-Man Jones, doubtful. I mean, their defense may not have enough guys to play. Vikings O-line's banged up, but I'm not sure it really matters. I think the Vikings are a good teaser candidate.
Completely agree with the teaser situation. Minnesota's O-line could be missing 3 starters. I'm seeing Rudolph as questionable. But as you said, Cincinnati is... we may be getting a call during this podcast to come play defense for Cincinnati this week.
You better warm up that hammy.
I will not play for Marvin Lewis. I will not be associated with a loser like that.
I like that. Prima donna move by you.
Yeah, so I think Minnesota's a prime teaser candidate.
Totally agree. Eagles, Vikings would be my teaser du jour when we have to make that decision.
As you said, this is almost a must-win for Minnesota. As if Rodgers looks anything like the old Rodgers, Minnesota has to go to Green Bay next week, which won't be an easy spot.
That's a really good point, yeah. That makes next week's game, if they lose, basically a play-in playoff game almost.
I think you're certainly a little higher on the Vikings than I am, but I think they need to get that home field, at least a 2 seed. I do not trust Keenum on the road.
Totally agree. I think for me, while I like Murray and the McKinnon combo, I don't think they're effective when they're not able to throw the ball. They're not a pound-first type of team, so that's why I think on the road they will struggle to run the ball. Obviously, that kills Keenum.
Miami goes to Buffalo. I said Bills 4.5.
I said Bills -3. I wasn't sure of the quarterback situation.
I get this to cut it to 6-5. It opened 4. It is down to 3. Taylor is probable.
All right. Well, if Taylor is going to play, probable's obviously a good sign that he's pretty healed. I kind of like the Bills, the Utica Bills here. Miami off that huge win against New England. I think that was probably their Super Bowl. I kind of like Buffalo here in a close game that they blow open at the end. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I don't know. I don't see Miami as one of those teams that can sustain.
I'm with you. I think this is a fantastic spot for the Bills. I have not seen the weather. I know they've been getting snow since last Sunday, it seems.
Yeah.
I can't imagine many Dolphins guys want to go into that environment after Monday night beating New England. Short week, going to Buffalo in the snow or cold. I think it's a great spot for Buffalo.
Totally agree. We can look at the weather. You probably shouldn't check it until Saturday night, Sunday morning with the lake effect stuff. It's kind of hard to predict. So weather, questionable at best. Totally agree with your point about Miami not wanting to play in that weather no matter what.
2 really good 4 o'clock games that we'll touch upon next. The Rams go to Seattle. I said Seahawks 2.5.
I said the same.
We have it opened 1 and it's up to Seahawks 2.5.
I will want to wait and see what the final injury report is here. KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner both left last week's game with injury. Wagner's probably the most important guy on the Seattle roster. If he doesn't play, everything's up for grabs. If he's a full go, I think I kind of lean Seattle in that environment, but I don't really like it.
I thought I was going to like Seattle more than I do after they lost in Jacksonville last week. Rams, obviously, emotional, tough game against Philly, then have to go to Seattle, but the injuries are a concern. And the Rams usually play Seattle tough.
Yes.
So I agree with you. You got to wait to see what Wagner and Wright are. I think I would lean Seattle if they're going to play.
You said it perfectly. That's exactly where I'm at right now.
Huge, enormous game in Pittsburgh. Pats in town. I said Pats -3.
I said 3.5.
I get it to even the week up at 6. Pats open 2.5 up to 3.
Brady Belichick 10-2 all time against Pittsburgh. I think Belichick and Brady purposely lost last week in Miami so they could have motivation this week for all the young guys. Pittsburgh's had 2 body bag type games in a row against Cincinnati and Baltimore. I was disturbed at how easily Baltimore ran the ball and moved the ball against Pittsburgh last week without Shazier. I think the Shazier injury, specifically in this matchup, is absolutely critical. I think James White, Deion Lewis, Rex Burkhead have a field day out of that backfield. I like New England.
Brady 72-48 against the spread versus winning teams. The biggest thing to me is Shazier. You saw how easily Flacco moved the ball against Pittsburgh last week. Alex Collins could have ran for 500 yards. With Gronk back, Lewis, Burkhead should have enormous days out of the backfield.
Official.
I think so. Pats -3.
Like it.
Official. Tennessee goes to San Fran. I said Titans -2.
I said San Fran -3.
It opened to pick. I take a 7-6 lead on the week.
Oh, man.
San Fran is now 1.5.
It's fitting that I would lose on freaking Titans-Niners. I'm all aboard the Jimmy G train. He's looked pretty good with horrific guys around him. Tennessee's a fraud. We sniffed that one out perfectly last week with Arizona. I don't like backing really shitty teams this late in the year against someone that has them on the line, but we've said it all year. The Niners are going to ruin someone's season late, and I think this could be it.
I want to like San Fran. I just don't know if they should be favored against anybody.
That's a good point.
You have been all over Jimmy G for the last 2 years, and it looks like you're spot on. I think we both said he ended up in a great situation with Shanahan, and he's certainly showing it. And he should show it again Sunday with Tennessee being one of the worst pass defenses in the league. Marquise Goodwin could have a big day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's San Fran or nothing to me. I just don't know how comfortable I am with them as the favorite.
We can wait and see where it goes. I'm with you. The path for the Titans here is to pound it, get an early lead, and sit on it and pound it some more. I think there's a big coaching mismatch here with Shanahan versus Malarkey. I think there's a quarterback advantage for San Francisco, and usually when you get 2 for 2, coach and quarterback, I usually like that side. So I'm with you. It's a weird scenario with San Francisco being the favorite, but it checks a lot of the boxes for me.
There's nothing exciting about Tennessee, so I can't say I've watched a ton of them this year. But let me get your thoughts on Mariota. Has he regressed? Is it because of injuries? Is it Malarkey? Can he be salvaged, or is this what Marcus Mariota is?
We'll go backwards here. I think he can be salvaged. I wasn't a huge fan coming out of the draft. I think it's very hard for those guys in those specific college systems to become successful in the league. But he does have the tools. He's still really young, and he has been hurt. So I think he can be salvaged. I don't think his ceiling is as high as people think it is, though. Some people.
Long term, is it best for Tennessee to miss the playoffs and Malarkey get fired?
Yes, 100%.
I would agree with that.
Or go to the playoffs and get waxed by 50.
And that's probably
so we can make some money off of it.
more likely scenario.
Yeah.
Sunday night, Dallas goes to Oakland. I said Cowboys -1.
I said Cowboys -3.
You got it exactly to have the week with 1 game left. Open 3, it's remain 3.
Oakland is atrocious. Talk about regressing. Derek Carr, I don't know if it's the offense or what. I think it's a similar scenario where the head coach is totally incompetent, but he's looked terrible this year. Cooper can't catch the ball or stay healthy, which is shocking given what he was coming out of college. Their defense is an open wound besides Khalil Mack. I shockingly like the Cowboys here. I think Dak's looked good the last couple of weeks. I think they've kind of figured out life without Zeke. I think Dallas keeps it going.
I was kind of hoping that you were on the other side. Because I think you've talked me into the Cowboys. I liked the Cowboys. But it just seems like a good spot for the Raiders.
Is there such thing for that?
I agree with everything you said. They've been awful. The wide receivers have had injuries. Carr does not look like Derek Carr that we saw last year. He looks like David Carr.
You walked right into that one.
I think
we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
I think it's a stay away from me for now, just because I've flip-flopped so much on this game.
That's fine.
Dallas,
if you're smelling something, that's fine.
Dallas certainly should be the side, but there's something about the spot for Oakland that I like, and I don't know what it is.
I hear you. I just have this weird feeling in my gut that Dallas knows they can make a run here, and I think they're on their way of making a run, especially with Zeke back next week.
Monday night, Atlanta at Tampa. I said Atlanta -6.
I said Atlanta -7.
I get it to win the week. Take a lead on the season and essentially a 1-0 in our best of 3. It opened Atlanta -4. It is up to 6.
I think Dirk Cutter might be dead man walking. Atlanta's got a lot to play for. Jameis has been such a Jekyll and Hyde type of guy this year. That whole offense has been inconsistent. They can't run the ball. Teams are doubling Mike Evans, and Deshaun is not what he used to be. I hate backing Atlanta on the road, but it's probably Atlanta or nothing.
Probably a tease candidate. They need to win. I still don't. After watching them, they got a great win last Thursday, but Matt Ryan is not the Matt Ryan of last year. And maybe last year was the anomaly.
I think that was a little bit of an anomaly. I don't ever think he's been as good as kind of what his numbers have shown. I think this is Kyle Shanahan is just far superior than Steve Sarkisian type of deal.
I agree completely.
So I think that's where the change is. I think Kyle kind of patched up some Dan Quinn deficiencies as well.
Can Winston be salvaged? It seems like he's taken a bigger regression than Mariota.
Yeah, I think he can. For him, it's just he makes terrible decisions at times.
Yeah.
Some of them are just baffling what he tries to do. But yeah, I'm not sure what his ceiling is either. But I think he can become an okay starter.
So we have the Patriots as our only official -3. Our check marks: Chicago, Kansas City, Carolina, Cleveland, Philly, Minnesota tease, Buffalo, San Fran.
I mean, when you're hot, you just want to keep eating.
Do you like anything tomorrow? I say we start with tomorrow and then we'll tweet out Sundays.
What's tomorrow? Kansas City and
So it would
Chicago?
be Chicago +5 or Kansas City -1. Or excuse me, Kansas City
I'm okay
+1.
rolling with Kansas City right now. I want to see the Chicago line movement. Because 4.5 and 5.5 mean nothing to me.
Kansas City +1 official.
Yeah.
So we have Kansas City +1 and the Patriots -3 as our two officials. 74-59 on the year, on fire right now. We'll tweet out if we decide on Chicago, and we'll have Sunday plays out on Sunday. Couple bowl games tomorrow. Run through them quickly. Just tell me if you have a feel either way. North Carolina A&T -7.5 over Grambling State.
No feel.
Troy -7 over North Texas.
No feel.
Western Kentucky -6.5 over Georgia State.
No feel.
Oregon -7 over Boise.
Kind of lean Oregon.
I'm with
I
you.
like that they promoted within for the head coaching position for this specific bowl game.
I'm with you there. Colorado State -5.5 over your Marshall Thundering Herd.
I would be not a true podcaster if I did not lean Marshall here. They've been my team all year, so I lean the Randy Mosses.
Oregon -1, Marshall +11.5 teaser.
No, not that confident. No.
Arkansas State -3.5 over Middle Tennessee State.
This should actually be a fun game to watch. There'll be some points scored in this one. I can see this one getting up there in the total, but I don't like either side here.
I agree. I lean Oregon, and I think I lead Middle Tennessee State. None to make official. But the bowl season should get more exciting next week.
I'm sure we'll have some bowl picks next week. I'd like to ease my way into bowl season.
Great job by you today. Let's stay hot.
Golf clap for the host. Great job, buddy.
Talk to you soon.
See you, bud.